In this video, we will be interacting with a clip from Sky Sports, where Sven-Goran Eriksson attempts to explain why he played Paul Scholes on the left of midfield for England. We will offer a critique of this decision and highlight Sven's tactical oversight. We will also offer formational and tactical solutions, ones which he failed to consider.
I think a big talking point of your England reign is Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, and playing Scholes on the left.
Yeah.
Was that a discussion you had with Paul Scholes about playing on the left? And do you ever find that a problem, putting that midfield together?
No. And you know, at that time, this was the best four midfielders we had in England. And
does that always help the team, though, if you pick just the best four?
I think you cannot. I could not at that time put one of these on the bench.
Well, some people were saying you were picking on reputation at the time.
No, I picked because I was convinced these four are the best. And I was always convinced that Gerrard and Lampard could play together. You could have put Steven Gerrard to the left, maybe, and put Scholes in the middle. But anyhow, this, for me, and I still believe, was the best team at that time.
I agree with Sven that those four midfielders had to start for England. They were four top quality players, and also with his statement that this was the best starting 11 available for selection at that time. But the problem was never with his personnel. The problem was with his chosen system and his refusal to move away from a strict and rigid 4-4-2.
Also, just going back to this, Sven, I think the team was called the Golden Generation. Certainly those players, they are world-class players, and I agree, they were the four best midfielders individually. But a lot of these players now, when we spoke about 4-4-2 at the top of the show, was there ever anything in your thinking where you could actually play those three centrally and you could actually play a 4-3-3 or a 4-5-1? Would that have been a problem then with the strikers, one of them going to the left?
I think it would be difficult. Maybe Rooney could play wide. But, you know, the players, the only one who was not used to play in this position was Scholes. But I mean, Scholes, he came in always. He didn't stay as a winger. He came in and helped and got the ball and things like that. So it was not a big problem for Paul.
Here Carragher asks him the obvious question of whether he could have adopted a different formation which would allow Scholes, Gerrard and Lampard to play centrally in their preferred positions. I find his answer telling, in the fact that it shows that he never really considered adopting a formation that would get the best out of each midfielder. He tries to defend his decision by saying that Scholes used to come in from the left and help out centrally, but this misses the glaringly obvious point that sticking Scholes out on the left, who was one of the best central midfielders in the world, and probably the only England player who could dictate a football match, was an outrageous decision. So in light of this, let's look at a couple of possible alternatives, which in our minds would have produced a more satisfying result. The 4-3-3 is the first solution that comes to mind. Here we see the three central midfielders, all in positions where they are very comfortable. Scholes at the base of midfield dictating the game. Lampard in a position familiar to him at Chelsea, which would allow him to get involved in midfield play, whilst also allowing him to make trademark late runs into the box. Gerrard here is in a position where he could get up and down the pitch and impact international games the same way he did at Liverpool, knowing that Scholes would be behind him for extra cover. This formation certainly offers great balance, especially in midfield, as opposed to the often employed rigid 4-4-2, which Lampard admitted was not ideal, as he and Gerrard would often get overrun in this area whilst playing for England. The downsides to this system come in having to play Rooney on the left, which would mean that he would be doing a lot of tracking back. He did play this role for Man United in his younger days, but I don't feel it was a role that got the best out of him, especially his attacking qualities. Beckham on the other side would be okay, although I'm not sure that this role of right forward, which involves making more runs into the box and trying to get behind the defence, would fully play to his strengths. He would undoubtedly still be able to utilise his crossing ability, so he could probably adapt his skill set and be successful in this role. Here we see the 4-4-2 diamond, and although the 4-3-3 formation would work well, I think we slightly favour this variation of a 4-4-2. Unlike the rigid 4-4-2 employed by Eriksson, this formation offers greater balance in midfield and allows the best players to play in their preferred positions. Similar to the 4-3-3, we see the triangle in central midfield, which would help to control the game and guard against the midfield being overrun. Some people might wonder why Beckham is employed where he is, but he actually once said that this was his favoured position. We would still want to make use of his excellent crossing ability, especially now that we'd have an extra striker in the box, and there would be nothing stopping him from drifting further right during attacking phases. Lampard here is slightly further forward, but would still be able to make his trademark late runs into the box and drop back into a slightly deeper central midfield position, which would be familiar to him in defensive phases. With Rooney now utilised up front, it might seem that there is a lack of width on the left-hand side, but with such an excellent and willing fullback in Ashley Cole, who was capable of providing great width, this wouldn't be a problem. But let's finish by touching on Scholes' position. We saw him play here a lot, especially later on in his United career. Some people might claim that he can't tackle, so shouldn't be utilised in the deepest central midfield position. Our answer to that is that he didn't need to be a good tackler to play this role. Pirlo and Xabi Alonso weren't known for their tackling. This role is about controlling the football match and dictating the pace of a game. This is a vitally important role, and if you are blessed enough to possess such a player in your squad, then you need to be utilising him in the right way. One of Sven-Goran Eriksson's greatest failings was his inability to recognise the type of player that he had in Paul Scholes.